What you are listening to now is the Central Indiana Sports Report podcast number 302.3. Elijah Poe previews the IndyCar race at Road America.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Welcome, IndyCar fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report and our Road America Elkhart Lake preview with Elijah Poe. Welcome, Elijah, and we just saw qualifying, and my question is, who is Louis Foster?
Well, it's funny enough, Louis Foster of RLL getting pole just a couple days removed from shaving his famous mustache.
Wow, that was definitely the formula, wasn't it? That mustache was
Yeah, I
holding him
guess
back.
so, but just what an absolute what an absolute lap from the rookie. I mean, first rookie since Romain Grosjean in 2021 to have a pole on a road or street course, and honestly, I don't even know if you
he's
count
not a
Romain
rookie.
Grosjean
No.
as a
No,
rookie.
he's no rookie.
No, but yeah,
It's like saying
first
Nigel
pole winner
Mansell
for a
was a rookie. I remember when they made Nigel Mansell the Indy 500 Rookie of the Year, and I guess that goes to the first Indy 500, but it was like, he's 42 years old and he's won 8 world championships. What do you mean rookie? So.
Yeah, well, just a great lap for Louis Foster, and really a great day for all LL as a whole. Getting Graham Rahal up in the Fast Six as well. Big lap from him, and they kind of showed speed at the Indy GP here about a month and a half ago, and yet again, of course, Road America is historically RL has been pretty great there, and another good finish for them in qualifying.
Every year you can count on them at certain courses, and all three of those drivers, when they're kind of given a chance, it seems like they're pretty good.
Absolutely. I'd be interested to see how the race plays out. Obviously, Louis Foster is going to have Alex Palou and Kyler Kirkwood right behind him. So if he's able to keep them back in the opening couple stints, that would be very impressive from the rookie. Scotty Mac's been there too in fourth. The only Penske to make it to the Fast Six.
Just continues to be a really bad season for Penske Racing.
It really is, and honestly, Newgarden arguably shouldn't have even made the Fast 12. He was knocked out first by Scott Dixon, who eventually had to go to the back of the Group 1 due to interference.
Scott Dixon's in the back of the field. Susie, what's that mean?
He's gonna win.
That means he's going to win the race, so go ahead. Anytime he's in the back of the field, whether it's to start the race or if he drops back to the back of the field during the race, he's going to win the race.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be so extremely hot tomorrow at Road America. I mean, I think they showed track temps in the Indy Next qualifying, and it was already 124 about an hour before the Indy cars even rolled out, track temp. So I could imagine tomorrow's going to be really hot.
Wisconsin.
And if there's anybody better at saving tires, it's Scott Dixon.
Man, good thing they're not in Texas and they're in Wisconsin this weekend. You know what I mean? That would have been. No one would have been able to stay on the track with what's going on around that area of the country. Anyway, before we go on, Elijah, please let me go through the qualifying, and feel free to comment as I go through this on each person. The front row, as we mentioned, is Louis Foster. I'm still not exactly sure who he is. And then Alex Palou, who I know exactly who that guy is on the outside of row 1. Of course, Alex Palou has had a challenging last couple of weeks points-wise, but still far and away the favorite, right?
Absolutely. He topped a couple poles. He topped the first practice here. I don't know if he topped most of the first practice, but he wasn't in the final timesheet. But he's just so consistent, and he's going to be there in the mix tomorrow. I would honestly be shocked if he didn't win. But then again, this is IndyCar. You really can't predict the winner before the race, even though Alex Palou is that good.
I was going to say, I'll take Alex Palou against the field probably tomorrow. I would take him over everybody else.
Absolutely.
Kyle Kirkwood, though, is on the inside of row 2, and Scott McLaughlin on the outside. So you're talking about definitely two contenders to win this race.
Absolutely, and that's some firepower in those first 4 grids. It's kind of funny seeing Louis Foster up there battling with Palou, McLaughlin, and Kirkwood. But I mean, those 3 alone, that's going to be just a great couple of laps. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Susie, your cousin, qualified 4th, just so you know. Christian Lundgaard,
Mhm.
the Dane who we would one day love to see in victory lane, is from Arrow McLaren. Christian Lundgaard fifth, and as you mentioned, Graham Rahal sixth. And I'm not sure exactly what it is. Elijah, is he not very good, or has it just been the team? Which one do you think it is with Graham Rahal?
I really think it's a mix of both. Of not only of him kind of flustering here every once in a while. You know, he's got great
Yeah.
showings. He had a great showing at the
Sometimes
Indy
he, you
GP
sometimes you
this
watch him
year.
and go, man, that guy's good.
And sometimes I just feel like, of course, at the 500, it feels like 4 years now. It just luck hasn't been on his side, and the car is
They've
just
been
not really
horrible on
cooperating
that
with him at
oval.
all. And you
Yeah,
feel
they've
for
been
him.
horrible on that oval, and they've had no
Yeah,
chance with that team. And especially every
I know,
year,
and you feel
that's
for him
one of those
because
courses where they're really good on the road course. So that's so that's kind of weird.
and he's such a great IndyCar
Yes,
personality. You know, he's so honest and open in
likable.
media, and having him in the sport is
Yeah,
just great. Yeah, he's super likable, and you know, I was definitely rooting for him to win Indy GP here about a month and a half
yes, me
ago.
too.
But
Every time.
I think time will. Yeah, I think time will tell for Graham. I think he'll get that win again. I think he'll be back in victory lane. It's just the cards are really going to have to fall in his favor for him to be back there.
Absolutely. Row four is a pretty good one. David Malukas of Foyt, which just Foyt consistently qualifying better every week, and then Will Power on the outside. Uh, Again, Prima Racing for being a newcomer, very impressive. Kylam Eilert starts ninth ahead of Joseph Newgarden, who's 10th.
Yeah, I love Callum Eilert seeing Prima get up there. You know, being their first year in IndyCar, they really struggled the first opening races and kind of they obviously hit their stride with Robert Schwartzman winning pole at Indy and Eilert he was running pretty well at St. Louis last week, but just wasn't able. I think he finished in the
I
top
think
10
so. I
actually
think you're right.
at
But he
yeah,
got
St.
pushed to the
Louis.
back,
So
right? With the
yes, yes. But he's obviously making their strides in Prema as a whole. I feel like, you
no
know, this
doubt.
Prema as an organization, they're known for
Right.
racing. You know, it's not going to be a question of when they get to the scene. It's kind of a
Yeah,
question of if, because you know they're
right.
going to get there.
All right. And then the next row is pretty good too. It's Pato Award and Felix Rosenquist. Um, the next row, Nolan Siegel and Marcus Ericsson. Again, a McLaren, an Andretti. It's amazing how deep this field is, and yet we've only had two winners this year. Kind of strange.
Oh, it's crazy. You know, the field is absolutely stacked, and it doesn't help the two winners are starting second and third
That's right.
tomorrow. but But again, you got to feel for Marcus Ericsson. He's been kind of having a rough season as a whole. You know, obviously he had that quote unquote second place finish at the 500. It gets moved all the way to the back. It just feels like he can't get much luck in this Andretti Global car at all.
Except Indy.
The past
Yeah,
few years have been, yeah,
yeah,
except Indy. These past few years have just been pretty nonchalant ever since he left that
that's
Ganassi
right.
car.
Starting 15th is Marcus Armstrong of Meyer Shank. 16th, Colton Herta of Andretti Global. Kind of a disappointing season for Herta as well.
It really is a disappointing season for Colton, and you know he's also been in talks to move into that Cadillac F1 spot in 2026, and I'm not sure he can. He needs to be in fourth place to get his super license for Formula
Oh
One at
wow,
the end of the season, and it's really gonna be an uphill battle for him to try to
no
secure that.
doubt.
He just really hasn't had the pace this year.
Starting 17th, Robert Schwartzman. 18th, Santino Ferrucci. Disappointing day for Devlin DeFrancesco, who was the fastest in practice yesterday and starting 19th, and the other Rahal, and the other two are at the top. So what happened with him?
Devlin went off in the first group right at the beginning of qualifying, and I'd be interested to see if that didn't damage the bottom of the floor because he went over that gravel in turn 14. Um, but also that also just hurts your confidence. You know, in qualifying, you're pushing to the max, and if you go off on one of your opening laps, you're honestly starting on the back foot already. But RRL is fast there, and I'd be interested to see if he can climb his way up tomorrow.
Starting 20th is another Dane we would love to see in victory lane, and that, of course, is Christian Rasmussen. Then the official favorite driver of the Central Indiana Sports Report, Conor Daly, starts 21st, right next to Renus VK. 23rd is Kiffin Simpson. 24th, Alexander Rossi. Let's talk about him in a second. 25th, Scott Dixon, because he was penalized. I also want to hear about that. 26th, Stingray Robb. 27 is Jacob Abel, of course, from Louisville. Tell me about Scott Dixon and why he's starting in the back. And then tell me how you feel about the performance of Alexander Rossi to this point with his new team.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting with Scott, he was coming into that. Devlin DeFrancesco was on a flying lap, and Scott just, it's one of those unfortunate situations in IndyCar where you can't really get out of the way quick enough. And they're both going into a high speed corner, and Scott just happened to get in the way. And he said on the broadcast, it is what it is, because that's just part of the sport. But it sucks for Scott, but I'm sure he's not too disappointed starting in the back. It's something he's done many times before, and he ends up in victory lane. And then
Hold
moving
on,
on to
whoever it was he
Rossi.
blocked would think differently
Go ahead.
of that it was just a racing thing. Whoever it was that he blocked, it cost him too, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's who it was.
Devlin,
That's right.
I'm not sure I'm not sure he was up on the timesheets to beat his best lap and move up, but regardless, it still throws you off. And that's two incidents, him going off and then him getting blocked.
Mm.
Two incidents in one qualifying session. That's for sure something Devlin is probably pretty fired up
And he
about.
really needs to have a big run tomorrow and stay up there with the other two RLL cars, or they're going to start to think what they did at Andretti is that's the results just aren't good enough.
Yeah, and RLL is a team that's not afraid to replace drivers. Almost every year, it feels like RLL is talking about having a new
Yeah.
seat and a new driver in. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, there's a lot of racing to go as IndyCar kind of hits their stride in the calendar here. But obviously, starting 19th is just not where he wants to be after having a really good car in practice.
Well, producer Susie's not doing her job because she's out rescuing a snake. So if you there's no one producing the show because there's a snake in danger somewhere in the world, and producer Susie is Superwoman and is out there taking care of it. So, yeah, Alexander
I love
Rossi.
it. It's just been rough for Rossi. It really has. And the ECR cars as a whole this week. I mean, Christian Rasmussen starting in 20th, Alexander Rossi in 24th, and this is a track Rossi is performed
Right.
historically well at. Obviously had a win a couple. I think it was 2019. He won by over 20 seconds, and he's always run well here. But it just seems like the ECR cars aren't really finding their stride on the road and street circuits so far. Obviously, we know they have pace on the ovals with Rasmussen coming in third last week, but it just seems to be a struggle for Rossi.
A few moments later, after producer Susie heroically saved a snake. Let's just be honest here, Elijah. This is the third different team since he finished second at Indy after his win, that incredible race that he had with Pagenaud, that he's just not been very good. I mean, that's just the bottom line. He has not performed. He's been good at Indy. He hasn't had the final results at Indy. But he's been competitive at Indy pretty much every year. Other than that, he is a back marker at this point.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and I honestly would have liked him to be in that Arrow McLaren car for just a couple more
Yeah.
years.
Didn't seem like it
He's
worked.
got the pace to be. No, I feels like other than Pat, if your name is not Pato O'Ward, you kind of have an uphill battle at Arrow McLaren. But news from today, Arrow McLaren is actually hiring former Team Penske manager Kyle
Mm.
Moyer to the team, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm not sure if he has a no non-compete clause or not, but Tony Kanaan announced that today that they'd be hiring him. But back on Rossi, yeah, he just actually he doesn't have the results. I- it's kind of sad for him. The highlight of his career so far is his rookie win at the 500, because he's had some good races. And if you hear other drivers talking about Rossi, they love racing with him. They always say he's one of the cleanest racers to compete against. But at the bottom line, I think you hit it on the nail. The results, they just aren't there.
All right, Elijah. Tell me 5 guys who you'll be keeping an eye on Sunday to either win this race, move up, or who needs a result.
Number one, it's got to be Kyle Kirkwood. If he wants to compete in the championship and actually try to push Pelot down the stretch here this season, he has to win. And as boring as that sounds for IndyCar fans to see the same two people winning back and forth. I actually look at it as a positive. I want to see somebody challenge Pelot because Pelot is just that good. And if somebody's challenging Pelot, I mean, we might have, I believe it's the best racing series in the world. But if we have somebody challenging one of the best drivers in the world, then again, that takes it to a whole nother level. Um, I also have to say, as boring as it is, I have to say Alex Pelot. If he wants to win another world championship, he's going to have to win. Three would definitely be Graham Rahal. Personally, I would just love to see Rahal back in victory
Me
lane.
too.
It's hard not to root for him because he's just had these
Yeah.
results that are so heartbreaking, and sometimes the car just isn't on his side. Um, Four, I'd also go with Will Power. He's still in the contract year next year, and he's still fighting for that seat with David
And as great
Malukas.
as he's been for that
So he need
team, the results just have not been there. It's not good enough for Penske.
yeah, and no, it's not. And Father Time sadly isn't on his side. I feel like if he was probably 5 years younger, it
Isn't
probably
he
wouldn't be a
younger than Scott
conversation.
Dixon, though? Isn't that the question?
Yes, I
That
think he
just
is.
tells you
He's
how
younger than
great
Scott.
Scott Dixon is, doesn't it?
And I was about to say my fifth and final, it's got to be Scott Dixon. I'm sure tomorrow, watching the timetables, I'm sure you're going to see that number 9 car just absolutely skyrocket throughout the race. Seeing how he plays in strategy and seeing how he can save his tires is going to be absolutely, absolutely amazing to
You know
watch tomorrow.
he's not going to skyrocket through the field. He's not going to be passing people on the track. We're going to be watching this race, and all of a sudden, there's going to be a number 9 in 7th place and moving past another car in the 6th. And because that's what he does every stinking race, and I have no idea how he does it. It's some kind of voodoo, some kind of time warp. But he seems to do it every race, and the guy is phenomenal.
He really does, and it almost feels like the broadcasters don't want you to see
That's
Scott
right.
Dixon climbing up there, whittling his way through the field until he's about in 7th place. And sure enough, you see the number 9 orange and blue car come across your screen, and you just have to say, "There's Scott Dixon again." It's just
And
old
Townsend
reliable.
and Hinchcliffe can talk about, oh, where'd he come from? Again. Again.
It's the never-ending story. It really is with Scott
We
Dixon.
used to
He
say it
is
about Rick Mears,
beat.
and then, especially on road and street courses, he'd be nowhere, and then all of a sudden, he'd be in 3rd place. But Scott Dixon's taken it to a whole new level.
And it honestly, I've always wondered, I can't see him retiring
No, why
anytime
would he?
soon. And he is, and he's by far the oldest
Yeah.
driver in the series, but why would he retire? He's
Still as
so
good as
dominant.
anybody.
So dominant.
And maybe not as good as Pillow and
Crazy to see the
Award, probably
longevity.
not quite that level, or maybe McLaughlin, but man, he
No.
is right up there, still getting the job done to this day. And how he does those things that he does, I will never have any idea. You'd have to go rewind a lot of tape to figure out how he does it. I will tell you what, he's always had a great strategist, that's for sure. The way he can,
Yeah.
finesse fuel like nobody else has ever been able to do is just unbelievable. He almost won that race, the Indy 500 that Dan Weldon won just by saving fuel, and that would have been an amazing. I mean, it was still amazing what Weldon did, but Dixon
Yeah.
almost won that race just by it was almost 50 laps on a tank of gas. It was unbelievable, and he almost did it, but he had to end up at the very end going, you know, 20, 25 miles an hour under normal speed to try to save it, and it wasn't enough. So, but unreal
Yeah.
what he's done through the year. I think you got to keep your eye on Newgarden. If he charges through this field and gets a
Hmm.
top 3, maybe we say, one more week we can kind of count him in as one of the contenders. Otherwise, we can just start to forget about him.
Absolutely. He really needs a good result. Starting in 10th, it really isn't too shabby. He'll be able to if he's able to keep his nose clean on that first lap. I could see him getting in the top 5 and maybe pushing for a podium. I think it's going to be hard with getting on that podium because he's got to pass Scott McLaughlin, his teammate, if he wants to be on that podium, or Kyle Kirkwood or Alex Palou. I mean, that's just going to
It
be
is. You
tough.
never know how things are going to play out, but he needs a good result. And the other one, David Malukas, it was sometime last year, maybe even the season before that, where you start if you've been watching IndyCar for a long time, you were going, oh, that guy, he's good. He doesn't have the right team
Hmm.
yet. He's not going to be able to contend every week, but that guy's good. And now with, as much as Foyt has improved, they are still at best a second tier team. And to be in contention every
Yeah.
week is so impressive.
The thing that's really crazy for me about David Malukas is he was fired from Arrow
Mm.
McLaren last year. They let him go. I mean, I'm sure they're kicking themselves now about that.
We all
But
saw it coming.
obviously, he
I
just
couldn't
needed the
believe it when
shot.
they did it. We all saw it coming. There must have been some kind of personality issue
Yeah.
because he is definitely a talent. Definitely top 5 talent in this series.
Absolutely. You can just tell that he's waiting in the shadows and he's next up. If he gets the shot to be in that Team Penske car and replaces Will Power, I would love to see what he can do with Penske. Love to see what he could do because he's got the speed, he's got the talent, and he's honestly got the charisma off the track as well. He's one of the most popular drivers. He's great on social media, and it's really what the series needs as a whole.
And I mentioned that DeFrancesco needs a good result. Colton Herta is very much in need of a good result. And of course, we're always hoping for a good result for our guy, Noblesville's own Conor Daly. So I assume you, like everybody else in Indiana, thinks Conor Daly's the best, right?
Oh my gosh. I can't love CD more than enough than I already
Exactly.
do. It's actually interesting today. I heard them talking about on the broadcast, there's actually the hybrid was almost
Mm.
overheating. And he was unable to, which is the reason why he's starting back so far. But I'd be interested to see how they can remedy that tomorrow because it's going to be just as hot, if not hotter, up in
And he
Wisconsin.
is definitely not a first-rate street and road course driver, but he's not bad. And if the conditions were right, he can
No.
definitely be competitive.
Yeah, I think he can. Um, and the Juncos Hollinger as a team, they've kind of built up slowly over these past couple years, and it's looking like they're almost on that edge of really getting a great result on a road and street course because we know they're good on the ovals. But I'd be interested to see if Conor Daly is able to punch through this season because honestly, he needs a good result to keep that seat for next year.
All right. Elijah, thank you so much for your time. One thing I want to say is that in my lifetime, Elkhart Lake is one of the ones I gotta get to.
I've only been my only IndyCar track I've been to is IMS. I might go out to Mid Ohio this year, but I need to get up to Road
Yeah.
America bad. Just seeing the
Oh,
cameras and everything that course has to offer is just beautiful.
yeah. And
Beautiful.
one of the ones I used to go to and I wish would come back for sure is Phoenix. They got to get that back on the schedule.
Yes, more
Yes,
ovals,
short
please.
ovals. The super speedways or um, the short ovals. The mile and a half gets boring. It's pretty much whoever
Yeah,
has the best car is going to win. But man, those short ovals, it's all about driver skill, and the cream
it's
is
the
gonna rise
best.
to the top. And how great was that race last week at Gateway?
Just unbelievable. And it's also great to see that it reached over 1 million
Mm,
people tuned in on Fox. It's just so big for the series. They need results like this, honestly, to try to compete with the other racing
mm.
series, not only in the States but in Europe
And
as well. And seeing them consistently be up there in the
the
millions is
more people
huge.
who watch, the more the network's going to want to share it. The more they share it, the more people watch. The more
Yep.
people watch, the more the networks want to share it. And hopefully it starts to snowball because this series deserves it. You watch an F1 race or you watch a NASCAR race, and then you watch an IndyCar race, there's no comparison what's the best series. I'm sorry, NASCAR fans. It's not even
No,
close.
no. The best pure racing is
Yeah,
on an IndyCar. I could argue that maybe the strategic formula of Formula One is
sure.
intriguing,
Yeah, it
but
has
if
its
you want to
place.
watch
Yeah.
pure racing, yeah. But if you want to watch pure racing, you have to tune into
It's
IndyCar.
unbelievable. Whatever formula Roger Penske's come in and found, it is working perfectly, almost perfectly. I would say Fox has been a
Yeah.
bit of a detriment at times, although Townsend and
Hmm.
Hinchcliffe are fantastic. Every week I look forward to seeing what those guys have to say, at least in my opinion. But they've had some boo boos. They could improve for sure, make it more visible. But everything else, the
Yeah.
competition, the talent level, the balance between uh, cool foreign drivers and Americans, that intrigues people. Those are the kinds of stories that,
Yeah.
people want to see, and IndyCar's got it. They got to take advantage of it. I got to a point at one point in my life that I just didn't care very much after the Indy 500, but they've got me hook,
Mhm.
line, and sinker. Whatever they're doing.
Yeah, and I feel like this is just really the beginning of what they will offer to the fan base. The numbers keep on growing. It feels like we're at a point where the sport is about to really tip over and really explode from there. Because we got new cars coming in 2028. There's interest all over the sport, and obviously, as much as we're not a Formula One podcast. The tie-in with just how big Formula One racing is, IndyCar's really taking advantage of that, and it's
I think
smart.
so. I think Europeans would be very interested if given a chance to watch it as well. I will say this, though, Elijah. I've been hearing that since 1999. The crowds are coming, the TV ratings are coming, it's all coming, and it's been a second level
Yeah.
sport for probably since the mid 90s, and that's too bad because it's better than that, and it deserves better than that, and it's starting to get better than that. So, and this podcast is helping. We're going to
Yeah.
talk IndyCar all the time, as much as they'll let us. And they are me, and I say it's okay. We will podcast as much IndyCar as you can possibly stand. That's the plan going forward, to have every sport covered from every angle. Reporters and, passionate fans of the sports giving you their opinions on it, giving you what they know as they dig deep into their sports. That's the plan going forward, and we can't wait to bring it to you. Thank you so much for listening. Always appreciate it. Do us a huge favor. Share this podcast with your friends and family. And as producer Susie says, share it with strangers or even your enemies. And subscribe at YouTube. That would be good. You probably won't regret it. It's possible. But I doubt it. Like, seriously. If you're still listening at this point and you're that interested in what we have to say about IndyCar, why wouldn't you just go and subscribe right now? I'm podcasting over here. Something is stinky and spilly. The Central Indiana Sports Report is brought to you by TG Media, and I love Susie.